to Tales from the Tap. My name is Frankie, and this is my co-host,
Stan the Man.
And we are excited to talk to you about Magic in recap of 2024. But before we do, Stan, what was a highlight for you of Magic this year?
Magic this year felt really long for me because honestly, like Murders and MagicCon feel like last year. I mean, technically it's been a year.
Yeah,
like,
a year.
Like 10 months or whatever.
Right.
But I want to say it feels like 2 years almost.
Yeah, it feels like forever ago.
MagicCon was such a good time.
Such a good time.
Big regrets for MagicCon, specifically not having had more time to test and locking in the deck sooner.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like had I locked in Blue-White a week or two sooner, I would have solidified that list that I ended up really, really liking after MagicCon.
Right.
Excuse me. I would have liked that. Probably would have got to that way sooner. Probably wouldn't have been playing Cryptic Codes, and I think I could have easily day two'd because there was a couple of people I lost to that were like really questionable losses. Like I think round 6 when I was X and 1, I played against Toxic with like 4 temporary lockdowns, and I literally drew like all only lands. So like temporary lockdown, lockdown, and then like just died. And I'm like, man, if I had not had Cryptic Code and I had like Jace, this would have been way better. Just to, like, even for game 1 to like draw cards where like you cut them afterwards, or game 1 plussing, because I lost game 1 and I was like, dude, this game 1 should have been easily a win for me with like how many main board lockdowns we had.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because I tell people like last year lockdown was amazing, and it's like, well, I guess I mean like 6 to 8 months ago lockdown was amazing.
Yeah.
And because it's felt like such an eternity.
Well, I feel that too, because if you remember, I didn't love Blue-White and then switched on to Esper.
Yeah.
After that, and Esper was like probably the most successful in an RCQ season I've ever had. Like I was converting like...
That was the one where you wore the tutu like 3 times or something, right?
Oh,
you had like a bunch of second place finishes, which is, I mean, like, it sucks to get second place, but getting that many second places in one season, everybody was like, oh, Frank's gonna go second place in an RCQ.
Yeah, I made top 8, I think like 6 of 8 RCQs or something like that. Like it was like I just kept top 8ing every single event I went to.
Yeah, another fun part of that season for me was we went to the RCQ at MinMax together, and Frank and I both had a draw.
Oh my
and
gosh,
so we
not
only didn't get paired against each other, which was God's plan, sat next to each other for our winning ends, and both of us crushed our opponent. It was awesome. Like I had like the saltiest mono red player that just wouldn't scoop. I remember Gabe was there watching the match and texting me the whole time like, why isn't this guy scooping? You have 11 lands in play and you're at 20 life. Like, and like our game 2 took forever because he wouldn't scoop. And like, I don't know. I mean, the funny thing is,
slow rolling red player.
Yeah,
too,
slow rolling. You drew against him.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
And I was playing Esper mid range, so like faster than your deck.
Right. Yeah. The fact that you drew against the red guy, and I was like, well, yeah, I almost drew against him. I'm playing control, and managed to squeak it out and send him to the Shadow Realm. You beat the control player too with Esper, and I remember watching your games because even though my guy played slow, yours ended up after mine, and watching you like surgically beat that guy in game 3 where you like exactly had the last disdainful stroke for his Sunfall, and you're like lethal, and he was so salty, like, oh, of course he has disdainful stroke, and it's like, I mean, what did you want him to do?
He has it. Well, when you had your Fiend, baby, filtering all those cards.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you had such a beautiful board state. What did he think was in your hand? You know, like he was like, oh, I hope he drew 4 lands off for Fiend when he just discarded 3 or 4 lands. Yeah, that was a good time. And then like the team event too, we have with Jared because Jared is gone now, and I don't think we're going to see him again until April at the soonest.
Yeah, at the soonest.
Which is sad for us, but I think we get to do another team event soon. I'm not going to talk about Legacy a lot, but I have been looking into Legacy. Shout out to Sal, who's been helping us a bunch, and him and Kamari and some of our other friends have been catching me up on the format, so I can either play Nadu Legacy Elves.
Oh my gosh.
Or the Painter Servant deck. I almost forgot the name.
Yeah, Painter.
Painter Servant's so cool because you can play. Sal's list currently has, I think everybody for the most part is playing 8 Blast, which is Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast. Are you familiar?
Red Elemental Blast is counter a blue spell.
So yeah, it's 1 red, counter a blue spell, or destroy a blue permanent. And the same is true for Pyroblast. The difference between them is like innocuous. They're effectively the same card. One of them can target any spell, and one of them can only target blue things. That's like the main difference for like prowess, I guess.
Sure.
Anyways, in Painter Servant, you're just like everything is blue, so you're just like blow up all your lands. I mean, that's like one of the play styles, which is pretty cool. Definitely a fan of that. And I don't know, the deck is pretty cool in general. And then I used to play Legacy elves back in the day, so like seeing that Nadu elves. Nadu kind of like makes elves actually playable now, even though it's like just like a worse Nadu breakfast deck. I still would rather play elves, you know, than breakfast. Those decks are so.
I just play a worse deck. That's a good start.
I mean, yeah, it's like worse, but it's like worse in the way that like this deck is more consistent. Although supposedly Nadu elves is getting more win percentages right now that Jared was telling me. Currently, who knows where it's at in a month.
I will never tune
I said I wasn't going to talk about Legacy.
tune into Legacy.
Actual small talk. Keep in mind, we started an hour late because our freaking mic setup didn't work. We bought a piece of equipment that Sal helped me fix, and it didn't work, even though we made it work on Saturday. So I'm super hella frustrated, and we started an hour late. So it's currently like 12:30 on New Year's Eve. Tomorrow night is the ball drop.
Yeah.
Or I guess tonight in 24 hours.
In 24 hours.
And so we're pretty freaking tired. I'm really mad, and that our equipment didn't work. Not that whatever. It is what it is. We'll figure it out later. But I wanted to get into some small talk, even though we were limited on time. I know you're not playing it yet, but I feel like this game is like made for people like you that are like, you're like more autistic than I am when it comes to like having your phone on you. Like you'll have your phone on you when we're recording the fucking podcast.
Well, right.
And
but
like,
most of the time, just so you guys know, I am like either looking at notes or looking up cards.
Yeah, on the
about
podcast.
something that I'm going to talk about.
If we're like hanging out in person, Frank will be like at F&M, or it could be an RCQ. RCQ, hold on, Tinder, hold on, pass turn, I gotta finish my draft. I'm like, what are you doing, bro?
I have that same problem when I'm driving.
Yeah, Frank's
I'm
like the
scrolling TikTok, talking on Discord. Like,
Frank is the driver that's like, oh wait, is this guy in my lane? Oh, hold on, there's a Draco Seth in the next pack. Anyways, you gotta try Pokemon Pocket.
okay.
It's such a you game. It's a really fun card game for the people that like mobile games or whatever. I've been playing it a bunch. I know Gabe and a bunch of other friends here at the store have been playing it. One of my friends who used to grind tournaments back in the day, Evan Osman, shout outs to him. He before he got like married and had a kid, he used to love grinding Magic, would go to tournaments with us all the time. Really, really good card game player. Just can't play as much because of
Family.
family, and then like Magic demands a lot of your time and resources, and he just can't, you just can't afford that when you have a kid sometimes to like play all the time, and then also just buy a bunch of Magic cards.
Yeah.
But he's been playing Pokemon Pocket, and we've been DMing a bunch in like the store's group chat for Facebook because
I know, I've seen
a ton of people are playing Pokemon Pocket at the store, so we're all like sharing our decks and talking about them. And like you can tell the difference between all the grinders, like me, Evan, Timmy, like all the really good grinders are like, this deck is min-max because it's a 20 card deck. So it's Pokemon, like the 60 card version,
but 20
less rules, 20 card deck. It's really, really funny. It's like a shorter version, and the games are like 4 minutes.
Well, they have to be if you've got
Yes.
20 cards.
Yes. Well, I
Wow,
mean, sometimes
okay.
you can go to like turn 16, 20. But it's a really fun game. I think you would actually like it. I play it all the time. Like, it's the fastest bathroom phone game I've ever played in my life. Like, you can't like, oh, I'm gonna use the restroom. I'll put up a TFT. Like, that's never gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like 40 minutes.
Exactly. You can't.
Minimum.
And so, like, what do you play when you're in the restroom and you have like 3 minutes to burn? Pokemon Pocket.
Speaking of which, I should just start a TFT game now.
yeah, we'll see. We'll do that one time. We'll have Frank do a draft while we're playing, and then see how good his cooked up deck is while I make him answer questions, like on some hot ones. But yeah, anyways, I think you would enjoy it. The game's been a blast. I've been having fun. My buddy Evan actually has been like top 16ing a bunch of these limitless, like there's like 900 player Pokemon Pocket tournaments. Like literally already, the game just came out. There's already like 1,000 player events.
Jeez Louise, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But anyways, that's all the small talk I have. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I wanted to get my Magic highlight.
Oh yeah, Frank's highlights.
Jeez.
Also, sorry for the audio T-Syncs. The equipment we bought was supposed to fix that. It's gonna happen one more time. Just letting you guys know. If you're watching Videoly, stop watching Videoly.
Crying in content.
Just listen. Just
Crying
listen.
in content. But
Put us in the second monitor.
the thing that I wanted to echo you. I really enjoyed the team events. I just love doing them. They're so much fun.
Team events are the best.
They are the best. It's some of the most fun Magic that I've had. And I felt the only thing that sucked is that we got a little gypped. Because I think we were like 1-2 to start the day, and then we're like, all right, we're gonna fight back, and then like finished 4-3 because we got 2 buys.
Well, I'm pretty sure we got like 19th or 20th place.
Yeah, we did.
So we did really well. It's just two of them were just buys
because people decided not to drop from the
yeah,
event.
we had opponents that were just like, oh, we forgot to drop.
Yeah, no, and so that was like a bummer because I wanted to play more Magic, but like I felt like we picked good decks for the most part.
Yeah.
I felt like we
we picked great decks. We got really unlucky. I think the curse started round 1 that event where like you drew against that guy that was just like playing so slow and just like wouldn't concede. It's like, oh my god, bro, you're so cringe.
Oh, so cringe because he was like super dead on
Yeah, he was
board
like he was dead 16 ways to Sunday and
and he's
just
like,
survived that one life.
Guess we draw.
Guess we draw.
Yeah. The second thing I wanted to say was the second thing, of course, I'm most excited about was making my first RC, and not only making my first RC, but day 2ing. That felt like a big accomplishment for me. My cousin and I always dreamed when we were in high school that like we would go to a big event and like do well, and like that to be my first time felt like, wow, like this is awesome. And I felt like I picked a good deck. I felt like it was a good meta call, and it was like 2 weeks after Duskmourn came out. So like we had no idea how good it would be, but like just from the little bit of testing that we did, we're like, oh, this deck is sweet.
Yeah, plus you got to play a pet deck. I love when I get to play pet decks. Like one of my favorite things about this team event, even though it was a Nadu format, which honestly completely ruined the event for me.
Rough.
Like I would have 100%ed Nadu that day had the last guy not literally off of me killing his guy, triggering, hitting the land he needed. I would have basically swept Nadu of the day on Tron, which made me feel really good. But I lost, whatever. Had I beat that guy, I think we win that round too. Maybe puts us in like top 16. The only annoying part is actually I lost that round, but you guys won. We carried that round. You and you beat the Lizards player.
Yes, I did.
So we won that round actually. It didn't matter that I lost. We won. But I was still just annoyed. I was like, man, I could have won this. It didn't matter, but
1-3.
I beat Nadu like twice out of 3 times playing against it, if I remember correctly.
What a miserable. I actually
format.
And I was actually talking to Will about this at the last RCQ we just did this weekend at a Cataclysm. We both top 8'd, and we were just talking about Modern, and he's like, yeah, what an awful RCQ season, because the first half was Nadu.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, I was playing Frogtide for that.
It was like almost 2 months of Nadu too.
Yeah, and then it was Boros Energy. Like just raining terror of Boros Energy for like 3 like
it was
2 more
the
months.
Nadu grief ban, where it's like, okay, well, both of them?
Both of them?
Like grief ban now totally makes sense if they would have banned it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Grief ban, like when they banned Nadu, it was like, well, now you just completely gave the format to like the energy deck. There's nothing that can stop them now at all. And so it just felt like they were not thinking with any logic. If anything, if they were going to ban grief with Nadu, they should have also just banned the One Ring at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah, so I only played 4 RCQs of that whole season, and it did kind of feel miserable like the whole time.
Going back to my point about the team event, the reason why I was still having a good time was because I got to play Tron. And I love Tron. For anybody that knows me, I played the deck more than I played any other deck. And even though it's like not really Tron anymore, it still feels like Tron when you're playing the Urza lands.
Yeah.
And that version of the deck is just so cool. Like I'll for sure miss the One Ring, but I'm not gonna miss it as much as like now I have Kozilek's Command, Devourer of Destinies if I want to play that version. Kozilek's Command is just an insane card. Really, really love Kozilek's Command. Ugin's Labyrinth is really cool. The fact that now, because there's so many Eldrazi, you can play like Thought-Knot Seer in your Tron deck and feel good about it. Never had that really be a payoff.
A thing before.
And also with Eldrazi Temple, Kozilek's Command is an Eldrazi spell, and Ugin's Labyrinth and Eldrazi Temple together make it so that you have way more wider variety of hands to keep that are playable, where like before Tron was pretty boring with a lot of the hands, like 80% of the hands were like multi 4 because you have to hit
Tron.
Tron.
If you don't have Tron,
it's unplayable,
no.
right?
Yep.
And sure, you could like squeak by with like, oh, this guy's playing Blood Moon, he's too slow, blah blah blah, nuance, whatever. This new version of what Tron is, it's so much cooler. It's really really awesome. And there's like multiple Eldrazi decks too, which kind of makes me happy, as like those are kind of like my favorite tribe in Modern, for lack of a better word, because they're like the most representative creature I've ever played in the format. So like seeing green Breach Eldrazi get played, seeing the Brood Scale deck that's doing really well. I think you'll like that deck a lot. We'll talk about later. Love where Modern is right now. And even though, like we talked about, they didn't ban the One Ring when they should have, probably with Nadu, at least that kind of like ruined the format enough that they were like, damn, we have to do something. And that led us into one of the greatest unbans ever. Like really
So good. I've been like actually watching Modern
like content.
Modern
Spike?
content, and like enjoying it. Like I was watching like today. I think Yawgmoth was being played by Demonic Tutors, who's finally back to streaming, and like I was watching Misplaced Ginger play some energy. Like,
and everybody's excited. They're all like, oh, I gotta try this, I gotta try that. There's so much to try that like in the first week when everybody was freaking out, like, oh, Faye's doing too good. Oh, Max almost too good. Everybody's like freaking out the first 2 weeks. I'm like,
just let them cook.
just relax. Everybody's trying shit. Who knows what they're beating, you know? If like I beat somebody playing like Hollow One and it's like an unplayable version of it, is my deck that good because I 5-0'd and 2 of my opponents were playing some cheese? Not to mention, like, I think people really overestimate 5-0 lists sometimes, where it's like you can 5-0 with anything if you slam your head against the wall. So you gotta take some of it with a grain of salt. Like, for example, I think Spike played FOMO Twin with is it Murktide Twin version? And I remember seeing the list and being like, I really don't like that list. I think it sucks. And people were sending me that list like, look at what Spike did. He 4-1'd with this. And I'm pretty sure Jerry told me he watched the stream and Spike, after he played the deck, was like, this deck is ass. So I was like, okay, cool, that makes sense. It doesn't look good to me. Which, for what it's worth, Twin is actually not doing very well in the meta right now. I think because people keep trying these weird mid-range decks and aren't doing like a true control version yet. There are some people doing like true Izzet, which is cool, but I think you need to be Jeskai. But it's hard to fit everything without Yorion. I almost feel like Yorion Twin would be freaking crazy.
Too bad ban.
Yeah, too bad ban, right?
Too bad ban.
They should have just banned Giganta. But speaking of which, Giganta got banned in Modern, right? I'm not like gaslighting myself.
Yes,
okay, cool.
got banned in Modern.
I was like, I swear to God, this happened, and then I'm like, maybe I dreamed that.
Maybe.
Because like it just didn't matter that much, but it
matter.
also was like nice that it happened.
Yeah.
Sorry if I cough a little bit on the podcast. I'm a little under the weather, but I promise. Well, Frank is tired. He's a morning guy. We're gonna get through this. With that being said,
a morning guy, but I do have to get up for work.
he has to get up for work in the morning. Not me.
All right.
Not I.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping time.
So, first off, thanks as always to our patrons for supporting the show. We just grew again on Patreon, and in 2025, if you'd like to support the show, the best way to do that is via the Patreon. And if you do, we give you additional perks, which we are going to be planning in the first month of January to revamp some of them. So if you have suggestions, hit us up on what you'd like to see as a perk from Patreon.
Yeah, speaking of that, somebody asked today, like, hey, do you guys mind receiving feedback on what we'd like to see on the podcast? And I was like, yes, I encourage it. If anything, I feel like I'm all the time asking, let us know what you want to see.
And then people don't.
We'll go out of our way to do it. Some people do. But, I mean, don't feel bad asking us for stuff. If it's something we want to or can do, we'll definitely do it. If it's an idea we don't like, we'll just pass on it. Worst we can do is not make the content, whatever. And if we don't do it, we'll definitely ask Jack to do it. Shout out to Goblin Ringleader.
Yes, absolutely. But if you do, right, our current perks are you get access to the episode early, you get extra channels in our Discord. Moving up, you can get sideboard guides from us and coaching. Reviewing your deck list. We'll play them on MTGO. Take my dicks away from me. Thank you. But yeah, those are some of the Patreon perks. But as always, our show will be free. You can check us out on YouTube. If you haven't, please hit that like, comment, subscribe. We actually are almost at 200 subscribers. We just got another boost, which is amazing because as
Kind of fun since we just started YouTube like a year ago, I want to say.
right, and on top of starting a year ago, we were at like 37 subscribers a year ago. And
Oh,
now
wow,
we're almost
yeah.
at 200.
Cool.
So it's like, man, we're really...
And 37 is probably like the people that were already watching when we were only on like Spotify or whatever.
Yeah, and we had no video either.
no video,
The first two
just
videos
Spotify.
the first two videos that we have on our YouTube are audio only.
Yeah,
Just upload them as a YouTube video. So yeah, coming a long way. New mics, new that, and that's all thanks to you. So we thank you. Beyond that, you can join our Discord. We've got a lot of chatter in there. We're talking about standard. We're talking about modern, pioneer, legacy. Sometimes I don't know. I don't check the channel.
If you're local, if you're local, you can borrow some cards too. A lot of people are always like, "Hey, you're going to this RCQ. You're going to the locals at Boar Hat. Bring these cards. I'll bring these cards, helping each other out." I see that all the
Yeah,
time, which I actually really love.
Yeah, even today, it just cracks me up because like there are people that are like kind of regulars to our shop that just like are like, man, I can't buy these cards anywhere. And I was like, well, if you'd ask, brother, you could have them.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
today, someone was like, oh, no, there's just no entity trackers anywhere in the Chicagoland area. And I was like, I opened 6 boxes of Duskmourn. I absolutely probably have like 7 different entity trackers laying around my house. So like, please.
Yeah.
Just join the Discord.
I was there when
"Hey,
you opened them.
Say, hey, I'd like these cards, and like we'll help you out. Like our community is really good about either letting you borrow stuff, or if it's like entity trackers, which are probably like $1, I will happily help you out.
For sure.
So join the Discord. It's a great place. And lastly, we're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. Those are other places you can check out our content, especially if you want to listen instead of watching because of the desyncing that's going to happen again.
I know. I'm so sad because of these things. Because Frank is wearing that really expensive shirt, and
Because of all the patterns.
yeah, there's so many patterns. on
So
it.
many
This is-
patterns that this is primo.
It's like 4 figures.
Four
That shirt is expensive. I actually stopped eating lunch so I could afford that shirt for the next episode.
If any of you want to like, I put this on and I like the first time I wore it, which was a week ago, I looked at myself like as I was in my car and I looked at like in my reflection and was like, I just look like Brennan Urie about to start a concert. Like that's absolutely what's going on here.
Hell yeah.
Not mad, but also it's a choice.
Before we get into the actual episode, one last thing from the housekeeping section. Frank asked me this today and I forgot to think about it. We haven't done a giveaway in a while, and going into the new year, I've been thinking about a possible giveaway. I'm just not really sure what I would do. Last time we did a box, but it was also a box I have won at MagicCon, so it's like pretty easy. If you guys are interested, the people that actually watch the show, and us doing a giveaway, I mean, who wouldn't be, right? It's like it's like free entry to like potentially win something. But if you guys are interested, I'm thinking about like just doing a box again, whether it's Duskborn, Modern Horizons, Foundations, or maybe we'll wait till Aether Drift, whatever. Like New Year, new set.
Yeah, or I could
if-
even grab something special at MagicCon.
That's true. He could even like pick something up at MagicCon, and we could do a giveaway with that. I'm not gonna be able to go this year, so Frank's gonna have to represent us. If that's something you guys are interested, let us know in the comments. As much feedback as possible. Like I said, we'll read all the comments, and we'll try to respond to most of them as much as we have free time for. But we definitely read them all. Like I get notifications for all that, and I'm always looking just to see what you guys think, etc. So if you guys have thoughts on that, let us know in the comments. We really appreciate it. And one more time, if you haven't subscribed, supposedly like 60% of our viewers don't subscribe,
Like 83%
which is
of our viewers.
yeah, that's kind of crazy. I can't believe that many people are watching in context to like how many that would be above our subscriber count. So with that being said, if you haven't done it already, just scroll down, check if you haven't. We really appreciate it. It helps us go a long way. Hopefully for next year, realistic goal, I want to get to like 1,000. I think 1,000 would be cool to see next year, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I just want to hit monetization.
Yeah, I think
Which is-
1,000
which
is
is
monetization,
five-
but
500.
is it? I think it's 1,000.
Nope, I'm positive. 500 subscribers.
All right, Frank says he's positive.
I check the stats literally every day.
I promise. Oh, 500. That's the goal. Anyways,
We'll shoot for the stars, baby. 1,000.
limited review. Sorry about that clap. I forgot about the sensitivity of these mics.
Oop. Sorry, Chad.
So,
The first
going into this, Frank. Well, I guess somebody asked in the Discord, are you guys gonna do a year-end review of the sets of 2024? I thought that was a really good idea since Frank is like our limited guy. He always grinds limited. We have a ton of people in our Discord that just love grinding limited.
Gabe.
And yeah, shout out to Gabe for sure. Alex Newton, everybody. Former host of the podcast, Alex Newton, who they just grind these 7-2 decks and they're just like posting them constantly. And I love seeing all the deck lists. Every time somebody DMs me one, I'm like, just post it in the Discord. That's awesome. Nobody cares if you spam the limited chat. I promise. If anything, limited players are like, more limited players? Awesome.
More?
Limited is like the only I feel like any format that starts with an L takes an L on the player base. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you also do this? One of us.
That's how I felt at MagicCon last year, meeting all the limited people. It was like,
oh yeah, all the people that played the sealed event.
yeah, and then I'd be like,
you?
yeah, and then I'd be like, see you guys, I'm gonna go play in the standard, and they're like,
What that? What's that?
constructed 60 card.
4 copies of all the cards. How did you draft that? Anyway, so we're gonna power rank. We're gonna do it a little differently because a lot of people did their year-end recaps in their own way, and I saw some that I'm not gonna say were bad, but I'm gonna say were questionable in my opinion. And I saw some that I just thought were doing too much. I think we're gonna kind of like dial it back to just like Frank's true power rankings. With that being said, we don't have an editor anymore besides Sal helping us out. But try to think of it like a tier list maker where we got like the tiered system like S, A, B, C, D, E. And that's kind of how we're going to rank the sets. And then Frank's going to give like some thoughts per set on why he gave him that ranking. So starting off with the sets of 2024, standard sets at least.
And that's the big thing is the standard sets. I'm not including MH3. I mean, we'll talk about it briefly, but the majority of the other sets have like limited in mind when the set is being created.
Right.
Whereas, MH3 is meant to bring staples into the format of Modern. And so for that reason, I have not included it. We also are not including anything that happened on Arena. So sorry, we're a paper podcast.
It just doesn't matter.
Welcome to the paper podcast. So my power rankings, starting off at the top of the cream of the crop, Duskmourn. The set was just awesome. I actually think that it is up there as like one of the greatest limited sets of all time.
Yeah.
And that's for a handful of reasons. I mean, one being that it was so synergistic. Like you could play tons of different archetypes, different color pairings, and they were all like playable, good, while bringing back returning mechanics in a really great way. Like there are tons of mechanics that we saw return over the course of this year, but like Delirium coming back, and because the creatures were like also artifacts and creatures and enchantments and creatures, like Delirium was...
This is the best Delirium set for sure.
Very prevalent, and it was a really good return.
Who would have thought? Enchantment creatures and artifact creatures in the Delirium set. Like they literally, the last time, when Delirium came out, it was like enchantment set, the next block, right? And then the block after artifact set. And it's like, it's so close. Like, I get what you're doing for standard, but what about that limited format? Nah, don't worry about that.
No, don't worry about that.
You got that Soul Nascency and Shadows. You could just mill all your cards.
Yeah, so if Duskmourn was a set, it'd be like S++.
Yeah, I had it
Could not
ranked
have asked
for
for better.
Frank at GOAT. Like, definitely a double S, triple S tier set, but Frank said it was GOATed, like top of all time, so we're just going to give it its own category for now.
Yeah.
But then the next one you said was Murders, so you also had this one at S tier.
Yeah.
But not as like goated as Duskmourn, obviously.
Yeah, not as good as Duskmourn, but it was definitely like a good set. I think that it was really fun from like a thematic perspective. I really enjoyed, we see often with Magic that they do these different variants of like face down cards.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was so interesting about
Disguise.
Murders, the disguise, is that they had ward.
Yes.
And so like you had to play a game sometimes of like, I'm gonna kill that disguise thing, not knowing what it is, having to pay extra costs for it. They could be flipping in response, and that made for really good gameplay.
Yeah, agreed. Really high level synergistic gameplay. And I agree, like, because the fact that you have to tap out for your removal, was really backbreaking if their flip was amazing, or if it was a land and you're like, wow, I killed a disguised land and I could have killed his actual creature.
Yeah.
Annoying, but you can't like risk it sometimes depending on the colors. Could flip over like the most insane card of all time. I really liked also, I love 2-color pair formats like Ravnica. I think those are so easy to like make work. Where like Ravnica is designed for 2 colors. So like giving it the 2-color tropes, kind of easy. I drafted more than one, and keep in mind this was the first play booster set. So I had more than one draft online when I was playing Arena that had Aurelia in it. And she was just so fun to play if you got a good Boros deck. Just a good format. Keep in mind though, like when it comes to limited, Frank has like a Gordon Ramsay palette, and I'm the Mexican guy on MasterChef that's like, tacos are good. I've got more of a trucker's palette. I will say this, since like 2022 when they started making the draft sets really actually very good, besides New Capenna, I've been like, ooh, they use seasoning now. This is good. We're like 2014 to like 2019, I was like, I do not want to play limited. This is boring. These fucking formats suck. I remember when they brought back New Capenna, New Capenna, Cons, when they brought back Cons limited to Arena, and everyone's like, oh, Cons, are you excited? I was like, no. And nobody's excited, by the way.
No one is excited.
Like, nobody wants this. None of the old heads came back for Cons limited on Arena, like they did for Mox Opal being unbanned. Well, but that's like, take it with a grain of salt whenever I say, because like I liked all the limited formats this year, even though Thunder Junction kind of really sucked ass in my opinion. But Murders was like really fun for me, but in different ways than I would say Frank enjoyed it.
Yeah, and one of the things to keep in mind that like you briefly mentioned that's actually a really big deal is this was our first full year of play boosters in limited, which
Yes.
means having one less card mattered, and 2, because there are so much more uncommons than commons, it really,
And rares, honestly.
yeah, and more rares. It feels like overall, like it's not a secret of what I'm gonna get to now. I mean, it is a secret because we haven't talked about it, but like overall, I do not think that this was a great year for limited. I thought it was a mid-year for limited.
Sure.
But I think Play Boosters is a win because there are less, like, you're getting to the ends of packs and you're like, wow, all of these cards are garbage and I have to take one. Like, that doesn't really happen anymore.
Right.
It feels like uncommons are replacing commons in, like, what a lot of decks are because you can just grab more of them. And so there are more build around uncommons than there were previously.
Yeah, I would say to like pile onto that, because there's so many rares now, I've had a lot of decks where like I'm getting past multiple rares a pack, and like you might actually wheel a rare, which is kind of insane.
And not a garbage one.
Exactly. Like if you're like, I've had multiple times where like, let's say you're playing something like Thunder Junction, and everybody's kind of forcing green because they kind of have to. I open pack one, pick one. There's no green white stuff, so I'm like, cool. I'm gonna play anything else. Everybody else, like at least 3 guys in this draft are gonna be drafted green white because of the nature of that format. You could like get multiple black cards wheeled to you and just like be happy with it. Like, ooh, I got a good black uncommon in my first pack. My second pack had a black rare because the guy took the green creature, and then my third pack maybe didn't need to have a rare in it, but it might just have good black X cards for me because everybody in that format was playing green X. And then by the end of the pack, you get like the Pitiless Sacrifice card where it's like everybody sacks like you can sack a bunch of permanents and draw a bunch of cards or whatever. You're like, oh well, that was my 12th card. Thanks.
Yeah.
It really fits in my Orzhov deck, and you're just really happy with that. And I think that's really cool that there's build around rares that you're realistically gonna see. Where like back in the day it was like, oh, this rare is really good in this limited deck. You're gonna see it 1 every 30 drafts, maybe. And like because you get like I think 2 to 4 rares a pack, but like the 4 rare packs are like less than 1%. Like I think they're like 0.5% at most. You're not gonna see that many of those, but you'll see enough 2 to 3 rare packs that you'll get like it's 8 packs, so like at least 16 rares per pack, which is kind of cool. I shouldn't say at least, but like on average, 16 plus, which is really, really cool. And I think that makes a big difference for me, especially, or for people that like to, they don't know what the good common is, right? Like you're always saying, like the next level for a drafter is like find the good common and uncommon that beats the rare out.
Oh,
Okay, well,
yeah.
you're gonna force a color. At least you drafted a rare in your colors.
Yeah, yeah. And so like when you get to the point where you go, oh, this common is so good and it's gonna make my deck so consistent that it's better than these uncommons
Yeah.
and these rares. And that was actually kind of a practice within Foundations. Like there were not, the rares were bad.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
the uncommons were bad.
That
And
is
so it was
true.
like, oh, this common card is like the best card that I'm gonna pick in this pack.
Right.
And hey, if you really enjoy Limited, you should get on the bandwagon for the podcast because I believe at MagicCon, the 2 Pro Tour qualifiers are both limited. It was standard and limited last year. I think they're both limited this year.
Wow, I actually didn't know that. I mean, they're really supporting standard already this year, so like they probably don't need to over support it.
Yeah.
For the Pioneer players, I promise you 2026 will be a good year for you. Come back here and bring your pitchforks in a year if I'm wrong. I promise you, if not Q4, 2026 will be a good Pioneer year.
Please,
But we don't know what the
please.
4th season is technically.
Bring it for the homies. Help the homies out. So continuing with our limited review, we've got that S tier, the goated tier,
Yeah.
Duskmourn, and then S tier, Murders. A tier, no. B tier,
Nothing.
Oh
wow.
moving down to C tier is Outlaws, and so I just want to keep in mind when I'm saying all of these things, when I'm talking about limited, when I'm talking about like why things are good and bad. There are a few things that I like to think about. One being, if you look at the colors and how many different color pairings are good, when there are more that are good, better format. Because you have options, you can pivot,
Right.
you can bob, you can weave. Also, when they're mostly balanced for the most part.
Yeah.
Because Outlaws and Bloomburrow both had colors that were so much better than the other colors that
Yeah.
it was like, doesn't matter.
Right.
The next thing beyond that is and it kind of goes along with the colors, is our archetypes supported?
Right.
So like, for example, in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, there was this like black-red mercenaries thing,
Yeah.
and it just didn't matter.
Yeah.
The same thing was true for Blue-Red Plot. That wasn't a deck.
Right.
It had to be like, for you to
Or
get...
did you mean blue-green?
No, Blue-Red.
Blue-red.
It was
I thought
like...
blue-red was like spell slinging.
No, it was like...
Oh, I guess it was plotting, 'cause you wanted
plot,
to
'cause
go
every
crazy
time you
on
played
one
your
turn.
second or third card for turn, you
Yeah.
get to do that, and you were doing that because
Yeah,
you were
that was
plotting.
not good either.
Like,
Neither of them.
It was terrible.
Teamer in general just didn't feel good. You were just like, if you were in those colors, it was like because you had huge green ass creatures.
Right, and that was the thing, was green in Bloomburrow and in Outlaws was like just so much better because like the cards were just so much better. It's like,
Right.
oh, these bodies, like not only are the bodies like way bigger, it's also like they have text.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why would you play anything else? Like, oh, green white saddle is like the best deck to play.
Right.
And
And like their rares and mythics were like so much more bomby, like Goldvein Hydra, Vaultborn Tyrant, Calamity, stuff like that. Like if you
Well-
were getting those kind of cards in like green X, you were like just
Well, even that really egregious saddle card, the like Griff, that like you saddled it and then you like give the Griff plus X0
Oh,
and
yeah,
lifelink
and lifelink.
for
Why
the
do they have
amount of
lifelink?
for the amount of saddles that you have. So it's like, cool, I've got all these saddle cards swinging for a lot in the air with lifelink.
And not to mention, like, saddle in those colors, like when you were playing green white in that format, which was like clearly the best archetype. It was the best archetype on like pound for pound just creatures, like vanilla per vanilla. The
Yep.
green white creatures were just better.
Better.
And then they also had better abilities. Like your guys were like trying to mercenary, and my guys are free saddling, just like might as well put the saddle on me because I was getting my ass fucking like ridden, bro.
Well, it was like, they're like, cool, I'm doing all this synergy where I'm making all these 1/1s like 1/0 mercenaries that
Yeah.
can like tap to like do this thing, and you're like, cool, I'm gonna saddle this bear, all my stuff has trample. Yeet.
Yeah.
Like, wow,
Yeah,
okay,
and you
like,
stumbled one turn. They're like, oh yeah, also I'm making tokens now.
yeah, and so it's like,
Okay.
you're dead.
Also, like they had so many flying guys for whatever reason. Like they had a ton of flying creatures in the white deck for the Saddlers. One of the green-white cards specifically was like flying lifelink or something.
Yeah.
And then sure it was a rare, but like play booster rare. And then there was like that Panther that was like a 6
The
drop.
Bounding Felidar.
Yeah, like what was that? That card was
Yeah,
crap.
it's like for each creature you have, you gain a life.
Yeah, and then they all get puffed or whatever. You're like, sure, okay, well,
Yep.
you're never winning a block again.
Yeah, so because there were so many archetypes that were unsupported, plus there was so much color imbalance, is why I thought that was very a mid set. Like
For
just
sure.
not great.
Yeah, I had a fun time because you could play 5-color bullshit and like just kind of get a 4-win pod and just like whatever on Arena. But like that was me fucking around.
Yeah.
Where like if you're trying to win, like imagine playing that at the Pro Tour. God, that sounds miserable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why Murderers is actually kind of cool because there was like real 5-color.
Oh,
decks, like,
yeah,
in that
yeah.
format. Like I played and was 4-1 at the PT qualifier playing like 5-color green soup, where I had like dog walkers and Case of the Locked Hothouse.
Yeah,
and, like the
yeah.
only reason I didn't.
Well, you're disguising all these guys, and when you need to flip them, you're like, well, I have my mana now.
Yeah, and the only reason I lost that was because I faced a guy at 4-1 who was playing green black, and I was like, green black's not even that good. But he was running 2 Deadly Cover Up, Vein Ripper, and like Urgent Necropsy and one other card, and I was like, he got every green
Yeah,
black
he was
rare
playing a
there
standard deck.
Yeah, he was. He was like playing
I
standard.
remember watching you play that match too because I was so
and I
bored
lost
at
in
Magic
3
Con.
too, so it was like, it was still close. Like it wasn't, you know.
Yeah, I watched that game from behind you, and I was like, oh, Frank's went. Oh,
Oh,
well, surely he doesn't have a second one. Never mind.
gasp.
But yeah, so after Outlaws, you also have Bloomborough at C tier.
Yeah, Bloomborough at C tier. So I think the positive for Bloomborough is that like it was the better version of Foundations, like in the sense that
Agreed.
like it was basic. It was 2-color archetypes, but I thought that it was like a lot of fun and synergistic. Like the frogs all having like them bouncing back and forth, and
All tribes
having
were
tap
supported,
being-
I agree. And
Yes.
all tribes had a very obvious game plan.
Yes.
I definitely, except for Lizards, I would say. The only one I didn't like for new players was Lizards because they were marketed as aggro, but in the limited format, they were really grindy.
Yeah.
Like you really wanted to play Hazel's Nocturne and reanimate them and slowly drain and gain and kind of nuance your blockers in a way where like if your early game was aggro enough, they can't really block profitably, and now you're at a gummed up board state where they don't want to attack you because they die on the crackback, and that's so hard to explain to a new player. And that was the only try where I was like, hey, I'm having fun. But I know for sure Timmy is like,
Timmy.
why did I run my lizards into these 4/4s and they're all dead?
Yeah.
It's like you were supposed to stop attacking, and then you're supposed to, and then Hazel's Nocturne, and then yeah, it was a lot. But every other tribe, like I said, like you're right. It's totally like, dude, frogs bounce. Oh, rabbits, they fuck. And
they make a
and
lot
then
more
all
rabbits.
animals make babies, and
Yeah, and then bats are life gain.
also Offspring
and
was really cool. Offspring was awesome. I think it was such a good
Offspring
mechanic.
was a good mechanic.
I've been getting so many new players this year that actually want to get involved in draft. Like they'll come in, but I'm buying a box because my 8 homies are gonna go to a house and draft, and like that happens a lot for sure. But like this year specifically, I feel like my customers have been like really getting into it. Our Friday nights have been popping off with people wanting to play draft, and then those commanders / draft players then want to try like standard or modern, and I'm like, oh well, that's great. You know, that's literally the point of the game is to like branch out, start somewhere, start somewhere with your friends, move to what you like. That's fine, and then play a little bit of both or whatever for the casual players. And for the players that want to compete, they'll find the competition because I got a lot of commander players that like. I've had a few guys come for commander and go, this is really fun, but I prefer 1 versus 1. And then I'm like, oh, we'll try draft. And then they're like, oh, wow, this is really cool, but I want to build my own deck. I'm like, oh, anyway, try standard. And then being able to tell them,
hooked.
yeah, exactly. then they're never gonna buy alcohol again. It's like, the set of Bloomborough specifically, and the fact that it's next to Duskborn is so nice because I'm literally like, this is me, like, this is work, Stan. Oh, you want a box? You don't know what to get? Okay, so this is the best draft set of all time. Oh, this is so good. But it's pretty complicated. So if you're new, Bloomburrow, the decks build themselves. You can literally just play this set and you don't have to worry about it. You said you want to be playing for a month, this, you don't have to worry about it. And they're like, okay, I'll try it. And then they get Bloomburrow and they come out, I had so much fun, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna get the next one. I'm like, okay, well, try this one. Don't try this one. Don't do that one. I really like this set. Well, you know what? If you like dinosaurs, that's fine. But you're not gonna like Lost Caverns Draft, just so you know. And then like, okay. Anyways, with that being said, did you want to finish talking about Bloomburrow or you want to jump into D tier foundations?
I just wanted to say, like, to your point of like why Bloomburrow fell flat was because again the power imbalance of like at the end of the day, the green creatures were big, and like even though they were 4/4s, it was still bigger than like the lizards and the rest of the cards, and so you
it was lower toughness and power format.
yes,
I remember we talked about that.
Yeah, lower toughness and power format, but like green was still bigger, which made stuff kind of miserable. And on top of it, like black green was like super efficient because it had like savor, the like -2/-2, making
The black
food
removal was also
really
really good. That's why I liked lizards so much personally. I was like, all the black removal grind you out. Okay, lizards.
Yeah, and to Stan's point of like another thing that makes drafting really great is that the deck building is as good as the gameplay. And because these decks build themselves, it got so boring so quickly because it was like, I'm doing bats or frogs or lizards or like, that's it. It's not deeper than that. And you can't like do splashing and like, it doesn't work.
And there's not a lot of chess either. Like, ooh, if I take this, I'm branching here into this deck or this deck, and I'm branching here into this or this. Let's see what wheels. Did I get it right? Was I wrong? Did I pay off? Did I get lucky?
Yeah, and
it's
then,
like, nope, frog.
Yeah,
frog
and
again.
And the same thing is true is that like not all of the archetypes were created equal. Like otters were terrible. Sorry. Like otters are super cool, but otters are bad.
They're great in standard.
Yeah,
phenomenal
great in standard. Terrible and limited.
Yeah, because they needed all the Dustborn cards. That was the problem.
Yeah. And then foundation. Sorry, that was really it. Foundations. It's a core set. It's incredibly basic. It really helped people like get back to old school Magic, and like commons were like better than some of the rares, but like again, not very interesting deck building. And truthfully, we only had the format for like a month because like we're gonna have remastered soon.
True.
And then it's Aether Drift, and so it's like it's not. It was just meant to get a lot of cards that are going to be in standard for 5 years, and so like I almost count this as like not being part of 2024 because it feels like it's like almost like Aftermath or like Modern Horizons.
It was really just there to exist.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I think I really enjoyed Foundations for what it is, like Frank said. And a lot of my draft players are like, "Oh, I really like Foundations. I'm having a lot of fun." Fun is, like we talked about last time with Modern, fun more important than gameplay. At the end of the day, it's a game. Like that's kind of like the most important factor of it. And like every time, because like we've been doing a Democracy draft now at FNM because it's Foundation season. And I, like you said, I don't really deem it a set. I'm just like, hey, we're in core set territory. Do you guys want to draft Dustborn, Bloomburrow? Do you want to draft whatever? We're not doing Thunder Junction. Okay, we're not doing it. Who said that?
Rootin' tootin'.
But I'm like, do you guys want to do Foundation? Do you guys want to do Chaos Draft? Do you guys want to do like Dominator Remastered? And literally most of the time, like the players are like, let's just do Foundations. It's so fun. I'm like, you know what? You're right. You're right. You guys are having fun. You're paying entries. I'm not gonna argue with it. I do agree with Frank though. After like 4 or 5 Foundation drafts, I was like, did what I wanted to do. I'm good. I haven't logged into Arena since.
Yeah, and so like, and to put this into perspective,
actually I haven't played Standard.
I wanted to compare this to last year because last year felt like an incredible year of Limited.
Sure.
So like, we had Lost Caverns, C tier.
Sure.
Similar to Bloomburrow and Outlaws Thunder Junction. Wilds of Eldraine, A tier. March of the Machine, S tier. All will be one, B tier. I don't feel like March is as good as Duskmourn was.
Right.
I think like
But would you have it over a Murders?
yeah, I would have it over Murders.
Okay.
So, oh yeah, it was so fun, and you had like all of the big.
I mean,
legends,
I remember loving
all the
March,
big
too.
legends. You had all the 5-color stuff. You had the special guests of having like Gigantha and Yorion, and
Yeah.
like all of these like legendary creatures that were throwing back into the format.
I think we were really lucky that March was such a good draft format because
People losing their spark, so it was cool creatures like.
that was also the 20-week standard where it's from March to what was
Wilds.
it? Wilds. From March to Wilds of Eldraine, which Wilds of Eldraine makes standard very fun. But from March to Wilds, not including Aftermath, 20 weeks. I mean, we're never going to see a gap that big ever again in standard. Like, I'm calling it now. You will never see a gap that big in standard
I
again.
don't remember how long Bloomburrow was, but it felt like we were drafting
Bloomburrow was
forever.
No. It was 6-7 weeks.
No way.
Dude, Bloomburrow to Duskmourn was 7 weeks. People were actually like, hey, can we draft more Bloomburrow after Foundations comes out? And I was like, yeah, we'll do Democracy drafts. And then people were like, actually, we really like Foundation because Foundation like overperformed as a set. Also, people really like ripping the packs. The cards in the set, like the rares like Sire of Seven Deaths and all these like bomb rares that people want to open for Commander or for their decks are really expensive. Duskmourn still has more expensive cards because like Screaming Nemesis is going crazy, all the Overlords, all the Enduring creatures.
Yeah.
But Foundations has quite a bit of cards that people really want, like Bloodthirsty Conqueror. And also like there's something to be said about the simplicity of, hey, it's my Friday night, I just worked 45 hours, I'm exhausted, I don't want to think that hard, I just want to play some draft. And it's like,
Well, and I think
You know what I mean?
there's something to be said because it's that time of year, right? Where like
Yeah.
you've got a ton of different like family obligations and parties because it's Christmas and New Year's
Yeah.
and people are working and end of year. And
I think
like,
there's all these variables, all these factors adding up to people really. And on top of that, I knew Foundations was going to be a good set. I didn't think it was going to be a great set. It is really overperforming what I thought it would do sales wise, and as far as its impact on standard, I think it did a great job. It did so like Caretakers was dead, and now it's possibly one of the best decks again. You know what I mean? Duskmourn really just dumpstered Caretakers, and then we were like, wow, deck unplayable, and now it's like it won the RCQ. It was like both the decks in the final were playing
what
it.
in Duskmourn or what in Foundations came into Caretakers?
In Foundations,
Yeah.
nothing. It just kind of like shifted the format around.
Oh yeah, because I was gonna say like one of the things that in Duskmourn that really helped Caretakers is
Enduring.
Overlord. Well, Overlord too.
Well, they weren't playing Overlord initially. It was just Enduring.
Yeah.
Overlord got added after Foundations, which is weird.
Yeah,
But,
well, I think it's partially because of Demir's Uprise. That like
Yeah.
the 2/1 flyers.
well, that
like,
was, I think, also why Sunfall was struggling, the Sunfall decks, because Demir was so efficient, and Demir didn't care about Sunfall. And when it did care about Sunfall, it didn't have to, because it would just Stable Stroke. So, like, it's like your Esper Rafine deck, except slightly more efficient, if not having the backbreaking card like Rafine. Everything else it's doing is better, though.
everything else.
Like, could you imagine if you had Flood Pitch Drowner
so
in your
good.
Esper Rafine deck?
Oh my gosh, it's so good that you can't even. It's so good that Bat is unplayable.
Right, exactly. Bat is literally like Bat and Temporary Lockdown. I should say like maybe also kind of Cut Down is like a top 3, but like Cut Down is still good. Where Bat and Lockdown were like super amazing. You have to play these cards, and now where we're at with Foundations in the format, you're like, oh, I actually don't really care that much about playing Bat. I might not play it at all. Temporary Lockdown is like good, but not the end all be all. You play it or you don't play it. Convoke is still a deck, but it's not really that good. Nothing you're lockdowning is like really feeling amazing. Even with all the aggro decks in the format, you don't feel like that hard stuck on lockdown, which is cool. But rip Blue Eye Control. But yeah, like I think we're tensioning a bit too hard into standard, but like Foundations really did its job in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not.
is-
It's not a limited. I don't think it was made for limited.
Yeah.
But what it was made for, it's doing a good job.
Yeah, and so like we jumped on that point or that tangent because we talked about how like March had like 20 weeks where standard didn't change except for Aftermath, which barely did anything. The fact that March was such a good draft format really kind of carried it. Like Gabe and I were drafting March even like a couple weeks before Wilds came out, And like that's so rare. Like you don't draft a set for like 16 weeks and still
No.
draft it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they got pushed because of Modern Horizons, right? So Modern Horizons has to come out. That's the summer set spot. They're pushing. At least they put. Oh, and Assassin's Creed. Yeah, so it was Modern Horizons 3 and then Assassin's Creed. So they're like, really got to push Bloomborough. And that's why Bloomborough and Dustborn were so close together. And then Foundations had to round out the year. So Dustborn was also like an 8-week set. People were asking about Dustborn too. Like, can we keep drafting Dustborn? It's so fun.
So good.
And it's funny because even though I agree with you, Dustborn's the best draft set, these guys are like 50-50. Like some people want Foundations, some people want Dustborn. Nobody wants anything else.
Wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
They can be wrong.
Frank will die on that hill.
I will. Die on that hill.
I'll like perish later at a later time, slightly lower on the hill. Like I'm with him. Final set of 2023 though. You had at B tier Olby one.
Yeah, Olby one was also like a good set. Like it, right? The toxic thing was really cool to do.
I loved oil. I thought oil was really fun.
Yeah, oil had some good stuff. Green red oil.
Also,
Yeah.
the equipment stack was really, really cool.
Yes.
And I thought that for Mirrodin was a really good mechanic.
Yeah.
Loved that the equipments were like all playable because you just had to get a creature.
Well, right, and the equipments, because they gave bodies, were good.
Yeah, exactly. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I got the
And
top
so-
8 in RCQ sealed because of that format. I had White Sun's Twilight in my deck. Very
Gosh,
good
that
card.
was so good. It would just turn the game. And like, so not all of them were bangers, but overall we had like most of these are good. Like
Yeah, higher quality.
above C tier.
Higher quality limited format in 2023, but to your point, like you said, 2024 had play boosters for the first time ever. They're kind of still figuring their way through it. But we talked about this when they first came out. We were like, it's going to be good. Here's why. Let them cook. They might hit some road bumps, which, you know, they did.
They did.
But I think they're really figuring it out. I mean, if Duskborn isn't an example of them figuring it out, what is, right? And even though Foundations was honestly really boring, I think that's also them figuring it out. Like the set did its job. I'm really excited for the race car set. I'm super excited to go back to Kaladesh as well. Kaladesh is such an awesome plane. It's got some of the coolest artworks. I love those masterpieces. The lore, that standard era also was so goated. Even though it had like bands and stuff, people complaining about the bands. Those bands were, you know what? The bands made the format better. Okay, so like, the fact that there were cards that needed to be banned was how fun that format was. Like the cards were good. You were playing with really good, strong cards, and all the decks in that time were awesome. So I'm really hoping Aether Drift shows some love to OG Kaladesh and like they nailed it. You know, like I want to see awesome draft plus really fun standard stuff, and vehicles are really cool. I mean, nobody's saddling. Let's be real. Besides Caustic Bronco, nobody's saddling.
No.
But vehicles get played, and Julian's also like one of our old buddies. He actually might be our team for Team Trios coming up in February.
News to me.
Future foreshadow, but he is like, I need a good vehicle for Greasefang. Pioneer vehicles, they need to give me some good vehicles. I'm like, oh wait, that's actually a good point. That might happen. So who knows? We might get some Pioneer love in the set as well.
That'd be incredible. Well, and I also think I'm hoping that because Pro Tour is going to be Aether Drift, that they like prepped. You know.
Oh, I'm sure they have to.
Yeah.
They have to know that this set has to be amazing because the World Championships was amazing. If you still haven't watched any gameplay from the World Championships, it is still worth watching. A lot of those decks are still the decks that are pretty much getting played, minus like 5 or 6 card changes in the 75. Dimir, Golgari, Domain, like all these Pro Tour, Oculus, every deck at the Pro Tour, Mono Red, Boros, all the Pro Tour decks are still getting played in some capacity. The adaptations are whatever, but the gameplay is like some of the best gameplay I've ever seen for Magic content. I was like, I think I said it on the podcast, I was enthralled. I'm literally at the store, like running the store, had the World Championship on TV, and I'm just like, You know, like, what? Like, this game is so good, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a sick top 8. Ah, man, watching Seth Manfield lose was rough. I'm a really big Seth Manfield fan. Oh, man. 2-0 start, losing 5. I was like, congrats, Javi. Congrats, Javi. Congrats. You deserved it. You deserved it.
Yes,
but I was rooting for Seth. But yeah, anyways, to your point, I like where you have the power rankings for the format. And then I think the last note you had was that in addition to 2023 being better than 2024, the last thing that kind of solidifies that was you had Lord of the Rings as a much better draft format than Modern Horizons 3. I think it's pretty clear that Modern Horizons 3 was rough.
It was egregious.
Yeah.
Egregious to play, especially because there was like one deck that was like, oh, I should be playing this deck if I see this card, and it's Writhing Chrysalis.
Yes.
Most egregious uncommon, or common, I think we've ever.
It was a common, yeah.
We've ever seen.
It almost had a 60% win rate.
Yeah.
At a common, and
when commons make the top 10 game in hand win percentage, it's like
it's rough.
something's wrong. It's like Inspiring Overseer from
New Capenna.
From New Capenna, where it's like that was a 2-1 flying angel that in white, the best color, and when it ETB'd, you gained a life and draw a card.
Yeah.
With a 2-1 flyer for 3. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, this card does literally everything.
Yeah, it was too good. Chrysalis, man, what a card. And it was so easy to play it, really. Like red green, but it was Modern Horizons, so you had fetch lands and you had whatever you wanted. If you were playing the teamer Eldrazi deck, and you actually got a good teamer deck, you were going crazy. The basic lands were like land cycling for 3 colors, which was even crazier. And they still kept their colorless to feed all your colorless cards, which is even crazier.
And you could use, like, it was a 2/3 that made 2 dudes.
Yeah.
And those 2 dudes would help you ramp into bigger dudes. And then when you sacrifice those dudes, it would grow.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay.
And it was a cast trigger. Everything in that deck was a cast trigger. So like
Right.
they couldn't deny you anything.
No.
I really enjoyed playing Modern Horizons like the first couple weeks because the sealed that we had like such crazy Eldrazi decks, and I wanted to like play more Eldrazi.
Yeah.
But then when you're playing limited, you're like, oh wait, this format is horrendous, and I kind of stopped doing it after a while just because it was leaving a bad taste in my mouth. And there's something to be said about, like you said, that it wasn't a format meant for limited. It was meant to bring more cards to modern, and so like the high power was kind of crazy, off balance. Some of the decks kind of built themselves, but in a really bad way. And then sometimes you really wanted to build a deck, but you couldn't. You got pushed off the rails. And Lord of the Rings, for what it's worth, One Ring and all, had really cool synergies. I think really cool archetypes. I was a fan of a lot of the stuff that was going on, and if I remember correctly, even if you got like a crazy card, you know, like you could get the One Ring and just like win. But a lot of the cards have had relatively good balance.
Well, and it wasn't as good because, like, yes, you could get the One Ring, but like you taking damage like really matters in limited, a lot more, because you were playing like.
And you're also not like playing to your second ring.
Right, and like the ring is drawing you into more commons and uncommons. It's not like drawing you into combo pieces or like more protection for yourself. It's like.
Well, not to mention if you tap it 5 times, you're dead.
You're dead.
You died. You don't have a deck anymore.
You died.
So yeah, it was good for some decks, but yeah, the One Ring really looked balanced and limited. They were like, oh yeah, this card's fine, push it. Oh, it's a modern set.
Well, it's. I think that part of what made it so good was like the ring tempting you. Was like
the tempt mechanic.
The tempt mechanic was great.
It was really good.
It was great for aggro. It was great for control.
Well, it was also good for like the dumb bodies in the set.
Yeah.
Like they really leaned into, these guys have good power. They suck against ring bearers. These guys have really high toughness. They are amazing ring bearers. Yeah. And yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. So like
that was a sweet mechanic.
Just talking about the ring tempting mechanic, that's all you need to know. Talk about Writhing Chrysalis. Talk about the ring tempting mechanic. Cool. Different sets. One's way better than the other. It's not close.
The ring tempting mechanic is like honestly what they thought the initiative was gonna be, and then they're like, oh wait, no, we botched it. Whoops. Anyway, sorry, Legacy players. So yeah, that's our year-end review for Limited. We kind of talked
Our
long on it.
limited Magic Wrapped, if you will.
Magic Wrapped.
Our Spotify
yeah.
Wrapped.
And don't
for
forget,
limited.
if you got your Wrapped in your email or you're watching the show, subscribe. This Wrapped
Can
actually
you
went.
tell we're tired?
Yeah, we're very tired. With that being said, this Wrapped went way longer than I thought. My voice isn't lasting as long as I thought it would because it took me an hour to realize that our cable didn't work. So my cough drop is gone now. I don't have a voice. We're gonna get into Frank's standard RCQ recaps and format
power
thoughts.
through this.
Power through it. We had some really good RCQs in the last couple weeks. One here, one at Pastimes, one at Nerd Rage. All 40 players plus. Standard is fucking awesome. 6-round RCQs are back in the times of the 3 RCQs per store. I never thought we'd be there again, actually. Standard is such a good format. Everybody cheered when I was like, best format at the RSQ. Yeah, I was like,
He said God's format.
Yeah.
And everyone was like,
true. And I was like, all right. And then we had that one drunk guy that was like, the 30-minute marking. And I was like, yeah. Shut up. I love you, bro, but you gotta stop drinking. Anyways, RCQs. Which one do you want to talk about first?
yeah, so RSQ updates and some of my format thoughts.
Oh, we already talked about the Pastimes one in the podcast.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I've had some very successful RCQs, and that's why why Stan wanted me to talk about Dimir and my experience so far. And so I've done 3
True.
at Pastimes. I went from 3-1 to 3-3. That was the only one I flopped out of. Boar's Hat, I lost in the semifinals, so I was 5-2 on the day. And then at Cataclysm Games, the one I just played this past weekend, I was 7-1. I lost in the finals to the Mirror. So overall, I'm 15-5 on Dimir at RCQs, which is like pretty solid.
15-5, not including top 8s?
No, including top 8s.
I'm doing the math wrong, or you're doing the math wrong?
No, I did math right.
I think it's 15-6.
15-6. That's
Alright,
correct.
well,
I math.
Considering half of them came at the Pastimes one, where you kind of like basically scrubbed out, that's like really good.
Yeah, I had a really good time.
Semifinals to lost in finals is rough, but it was like progress. Also, really good results. Also, the fact that Frank got the top 4 here got him a bunch of store credit because I actually pay my prize payouts.
And now I am the Krusty Krab.
Yeah, he got all the SpongeBob deck boxes for the Squares boxes. If you guys know what those are, they're really cool.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, just as a side tangent, I was like, I had buyer's remorse. I was like, this was so much money. I could have spent this on cards. Like, I'm not kidding. Every place I've taken that to, everyone is like, dude, that's yeah. Yes, exactly. Dude, that's so cool. I want to be that. And then I make jokes about being like, I am the Krusty Krab, and everyone laughs, and I'm like, yeah, I'm hilarious. So it's been like, okay, I feel worth it now.
Also, there's like the little plankton in the chimney that's like,
Oh my gosh, the dock is so good. Like the back of the Krusty Krab door is on the back of the Krusty Krab.
Yeah.
It's like the detail that they had on it. It's primo. I feel bad not getting that chase one now. I don't care about the chase,
yeah.
but I do care about the Krabby Patty, like that he was holding. So I'm like, man, I should have done it. But either way,
I would have had to have held in one anyway. They only gave me 2.
really, really cool. So the deck feels awesome. As what Stan mentioned, it's just like everything else outside of like Rafine is better about this deck from a tempo perspective. It feels like Floodpit's Drowner is go for the throat, but with also dealing 2 damage before it tucks it into a deck. Which is just
Floodpit's Drowner is go for the throat at home, but your mom knows how to cook.
yeah, it's just like it's so good to be able to be like, cool, tap your thing down. I'm gonna get in for 2 more damage. All right, tuck your best card back into your deck. Keep playing. Feels amazing. Spyglass Siren. One tip I'd have for that card is you're facing the mirror and someone puts down a Spyglass Siren. You want to map yours almost immediately, because you want to have the ability to block to stop them from kitoing. Because whoever kitos and puts down Enduring Curiosity first and has more of them wins the game. You
Yeah.
you outvalue in cards your opponent, you win.
Yeah, I would almost say, oops, sorry about that, guys. I would almost honestly say, because when I was playing the deck online, if I went second, I would just block their Simon Sword and Hammer. I didn't care if my guy died. Like, it was just, Don't worry about it. You can't ninjutsu Kaito? Cool. Well, it was way more important that they didn't do it before you.
Yeah, so that's why I like will map a lot on my Spyglass Sirens almost immediately. So
Yeah.
I can like A, hold up cut down mana if they try and kill mine, but then B, I can also block more efficiently.
Right.
So that part's really sweet. I mean, Enduring Curiosity is such a messed up card.
Yeah.
I think the card is so dumb, especially when you get multiples and you're like, cool, I hit him with 2 guys, I'm gonna draw 4 cards. What?
Yeah.
It's just wild. And then
And yeah, it's so cool too, because like Curiosity and Kaito are some of the reasons why Sunfall is so bad, even though the token deck finally made a comeback. When Duskmourn first came out, Dimir really pushed them out. Like we saw at the Pro Tour, or sorry, the World Championships, that tokens were like unplayable. Like talent or character talent really just got shafted. Even with the addition of Enduring Innocence to the format, nobody wanted to play caretakers, and the few guys that did just got absolutely blasted. And Dimir and Golgari were just so terribly efficient against them. You can't really Sunfall these guys. They're just like, oh, well, my guy's an enchantment already. You killed it.
well, and beyond that, the cards are like outside of Preacher, which is not being played in the deck anymore, which I'll get to. Spyglass Siren is the only creature in the deck that doesn't have flash.
Yeah.
The only one.
Big deal.
So it's like
And it's so
Kaito.
efficient.
Kaito isn't a creature on your opponent's turn
Right.
for the Sunfall, and
Hexproof.
Yeah, and everything else is flash. So that piece just doesn't matter. And the deck itself, I feel like, is only bad into 2 decks. Now the new mono white, because of like if they drop Overlord of the Mistmoors, like you can't beat 2/1 flyers.
Right.
Because all your stuff gets blocked.
Yeah, the Overlord getting played now after Foundations is really what kind of brought the deck back into the fold.
Yeah.
And obviously Enduring Innocence is still a terrific card.
Yeah, and then the other the other deck is Blue-Green Terror, just because they can gain some life and then just start being like, cool, tap down your dudes. Tap down your dudes. Tap down your dudes. And you're
Bounce your guy. Tap
yeah.
your dude. Bounce your guy.
But those matchups aren't unwinnable. Like
that's why I like the format so much.
If I have a start of like Spyglass Siren into Fairy Mastermind into Tashana's your Overlord of the Mistmoors,
Right.
and now I've got counter magic, I win.
Yeah.
So like you still can like have hands that beat those decks.
Speaking of Tashana's, Frank got blown out by his ninjutsu trigger getting Tashana'd by Will Kruger. That was awesome.
Yeah, so
Tashana's is so good.
So when you ninjutsu, the ninjutsu ability goes onto the stack, and so your creature is already back in hand because it's part of cost. So you then Tashana's it. You no longer have the creature or Kaito. You literally just get blown out.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, cool. And then they go to their turn, ninjutsu in their Kaito, get their Tashana's back, and you're like,
Ah, cool.
like I'm dead.
Yeah,
it was
so
super
crazy.
cool when it happened, but I wanted to cry.
And to be fair, Frank top 8'd it and Will did not.
Yes, I did. Like I lost that one match. I was 0-1 to start the day into 4-1. Felt pretty good. Here are like for Atlanta and the changes that have come to the deck. 1, Preacher is good into red, but too slow for blue-green. Too slow for the only thing that's fine for blue-green is it like can block a terror, but like that's not what you want. But the deck wants to play in a tempo plan, and like Preacher is just too slow. So outside of like it blocking into red decks, it's just too slow for play now. Some people are putting them in the board if they're scared of red, but other than that, it's just not played.
Right.
Phantom Interference is now worse than Spell Stutter. It took me a long time to make this change. I really liked making the 2/2. I felt like I could block sometimes, but now that Soulstone Sanctuary is moving up in the deck because it also can be counted as a fairy,
And a demon.
because when you plus with Kaito, it's a ninja. So like
Right.
Kaito
Oh my
emblems
God.
matter with Soulstone Sanctuary, which makes them play 3 now instead of Restless Reef, because Restless Reef, like people aren't really getting milled out anymore. Like that just doesn't happen. The games usually end because of how efficient like things are happening. Like you're either losing as Dimir or you're tempoing so well that like you're not getting them to draw a million cards with caretakers because like you're killing them before that happens.
Right.
Um,
It's so funny too, because like Mutavault was never in a standard where, to my knowledge, well, I guess it was in the fairy set with Lauren and Morningtide, I want to say, but I don't know if Mutavault really mattered that much back then. I guess it did for fairies, but like Soulstone Sanctuary is doing way more than Mutavault ever did in the RTR standard, if I remember correctly. I mean, Mutavault was good in blue-white control, but just because it was a really efficient 2/2, not at all mattering that it was every creature type. We would always make the joke after Theros came out, we're like, oh, Mutavault's a god. And so like I'm beating you with a god in my blue-white control deck that has no creatures. But yeah, Soulstone is a demon for Unholy Annex. It's a ninja for Kaito. It's what was the other synergy you said it was?
so Spellstutter.
Oh yeah, it's
having
a
fairies-
fairy. It's a fairy
fairies
from
matter.
Spellstutter, which I really like the Spellstutter. I was on board with that as soon as they started making the change. I thought it was pretty cool, especially when we're fighting these really efficient attrition wars. That extra pip of mana really matters. There's quite a few guys that in the format that matter too that have like ward or something, and if it's not ward, it's like double spell turns where you really want to be efficient, and like
Oh yeah.
that just comes up so much now.
Well, and you're trying to double spell in a lot of decks. So I played against a green-red opponent at this last RCQ, and they're playing like Questing Druid, which I think is actually real. I'm more scared of green-red than I am any of the other red variants because
Yeah.
with Questing Druid, they can just like out mid-range me, which is crazy for this aggro deck. But I had like 2 fairies from Faebloom Trick, which Faebloom Trick is what replaced Preacher.
Yeah.
Because making 2 bodies is so good, but beyond it making 2 bodies, like even against red, which is probably like where Faebloom Trick is its worst, you're still going, they're going, okay, I'm going to Valiant trigger whatever, Manifold Mouse, the red land, onto my Heartfire hero. And I go, cool, Faebloom Trick, tap down Heartfire hero, now I make 2 bodies. Do you still want to swing? And then if they don't, you then Curiosity on the next turn and then draw 2 cards. It's just like, it's so, it plays really well with Curiosity and also makes Spellstutter great because
True.
they wanted to double spell and I was like, cool, counter unless you pay 5.
Yeah. So it's just like Mana Leak or basically counterspell at that point.
It's worse than Mana Leak.
The thing I was talking about with Will about the Faebloom Trick, because as soon as I saw the card, I was like, that card is messed up. Trying not to drop 40 F-bombs this episode. I was like, this card is terribly scary. And I was talking to Will about it at the RCQ because I had sold like 30 copies that week. And I was like, it's almost better that it's tapping because of stuff like Heartfire Hero with Will. But I was telling him, I was like, it's crazy how because this format is so extremely efficient, even though it's tap, not kill, you almost kind of like value that more because tapping the guy, you kind of like always know where it is. You're not worried about death triggers. You're not worried about any shenanigans. You're just like, hey, for this turn, you're not doing that. I'm getting a bunch of bodies out of it. And I got to do this on your turn, so I'm getting infinite value. It's almost like when you're playing chess, instead of like a full tempo, you're getting like a half tempo, but you're getting a half tempo in a format where like every little piece of water you're squeezing out of the stone matters, as opposed to like formats like 2 years ago, tap cards were terrible. Like when Wilds of Eldraine came out, we'd laugh about the tap deck. If they had a card like Faebloom Trick, we'd be like, oh my god, tap is amazing, I really think
What
that
another
they kind of nailed
unsupported
it.
archetype.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of unsupported, terribly unsupported archetype. But like in the standard format, tap is really good, and you're seeing that with one. The Tolarian Terror decks are like mainboarding Unsummon because they're so willing to just bounce their own guy to get more triggers to tap because it's just efficient. Floodpit Drowner is just tapping. It's not like doing anything crazy. And that in combination with the rest of the deck, obviously, but also Faebloom Trick, just with all these half-tempo taps, like tap your guy. Oh, Akazats, you're going to attack? No, tap. All right. Slowly getting all that value.
Well, and that's what's so funny about you saying this because Will Kruger asked me this during the event, and I've actually come over to his thinking afterwards. He didn't directly say this to me, but I know that he said this to someone else that like in the blue-black mirror, you just want to out-tempo your opponent. And so Preacher is too slow. Because I originally was like, well,
100%.
they have to do something, because if this Preacher over starts swinging, it's going to do work. But you don't get there.
Right.
And so I was playing, because Jarrett is still on it, having an Aclazotz on the board, and I removed it because I'm like, this is so sad for me. Aclazotz is too slow.
Yeah.
Aclazotz is too slow for this format. And
Right.
it's a 4/4 with lifelink that doesn't die. And like has all these crazy attack triggers. And
Yeah,
so,
he's like relegated to sideboard card or at most one of, and you have to really be predicting the room.
yeah, and I'm not even sideboarding anymore. I just don't think it's good enough currently.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think that is crazy. Other things that have changed and happened to the sideboard, Preacher's been moved there specifically for red. For Atlanta, I'm going to play 2. When you go to big events like this, I'm expecting that aggro is going to be prevalent. I actually expect that, right? Standard, I think at this moment is hard for you to like get cards. Like getting cards can be difficult, especially in rural areas. So
Especially rural areas, but even out here apparently.
yeah, aggro will be prevalent. I think blue-green terror, because it's a cheap deck, will be prevalent.
But you gotta also keep in mind that some people might go after qualifying on sealed.
Sure.
There's a lot to be said about like maybe let's say it's 5% of the room because it's not a lot of people. That's still like 5% of like 1,000 players.
Yeah. And sorry, you just reminded me about this with Fade Bloom Trick. The other reason Fade Bloom Trick is so good, all of Dimir, the mirror, all the flyers are X1s.
Yeah.
So,
well,
like,
even
making-
the ground creatures are X ones.
Right, so having 1/1 flyers, they block really well in
Yeah.
addition to tapping something
It
else.
also only matters that they do 1 damage. That's all that matters. I'm drawing a card. Oh, I'm bouncing a token. Here's my Kaito. Whatever. It's like a 1/1. It's like I don't care that it died, but it's also doing a lot of work.
A lot of work. So anyway, those are decks that I'm expecting, so I will have 2 Preacher on the board just for that specifically. Just because they can't Monstrous Rage, and then like my creature's still gonna like trade with it, so they can 2 for one themselves if they like. I'm off on Backgod, think it's too slow. The rest of the sideboard, this much is like stock: 1 Annoyance with Affliction, 1 Cut Down, 2 Duress, 2 Negate, stock. That's mainly for you still want to counter Sunfalls for mono white. You're still trying to counter stuff in Domain. You need those cards for those decks.
Yep. Hit them with 1 counter spell. Typically, it's enough. Hit them with 2. They're crying.
Yeah, the game is over. And then the flex slot is between like Tidebinders. I was actually talking with Will tonight, who finally beat me on Dimir. I've had a lot of really good luck against him. I've like beaten him 4 times in a row, and he finally just beat me tonight on mono red. I feel really good into red aggro decks with this Dimir list, but he was talking about how Tidebinder is secretly good against the deck, and I agree with him, and have been, because every single
I
card,
don't think it's a secret that red is the Tidebinder is good against red. In my opinion, I was loving it against aggro during blue white time for me earlier in the year.
well, and this red, unlike any other red, has so
Ton of
many
'em.
triggers with Valiant from
Company's
Emberheart,
Camp,
Manifold
Heartfire Hero.
Mouse, Heartfire Hero. You want to hit the
Emberheart Challenger too. Oh my god.
Yeah, Emberheart
Turn that
Challenger.
guy off.
you want to turn off Screaming Nemesis.
Oh, true. Yes.
Like
I mean,
they target it themselves, they get the death trigger, you counter it. Like you want to gain life in that matchup.
and if they ever bring an Urbas for you, remind them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm running 2 main board, but like the list that I just saw was running 1 main board, 3 sideboard, and just
Sure.
like cutting creatures entirely. I'm not going that crazy. I think I'm gonna have 3 Tidebinders for Atlanta. But yeah, that's it. The other flex slots are between like how many Ghost Vacuums you're playing for blue green. I'm
Sure.
gonna play 1, not 2. I think 2 is too aggressive, and I'm not worried about Reanimator decks. There are very few of them, and I feel like my other
Do you have any other
cards-
graveyard hate at all?
no. It's just that, because it's just blue-green terror and like random reanimators, which I don't even think that's very good, because
Yeah.
you still have Tidebinder and Counter Magic.
Sure.
Some people are playing a 1 of 3 steps ahead. I think that's fine if you're trying to do that into control. Withering Torment.
Withering Torment's nice.
Yeah, card's good. I just find the reason I'm not going to be playing it is because if they ever do the thing with a Overlord of the Mistmoors, I've already lost.
Right.
I'm losing the game already. I just want it to shine as that trigger. That's all I care about.
Right.
I don't care about it sticking. I'm to
Put that trigger back where it came from.
Or so help me and cut. I love that reference. Yeah, and I have not dropped a match in RCQ so far currently against Domain or any red variant. Like this time that I lost to Will was the first time I lost to a red deck.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, Will's like a great player.
Incredible player.
The Will I was talking to about the efficiency of the Free the Fae or whatever it's called.
Will
Fable
Kruger?
trick
Yeah.
was Qualchick.
Oh,
I was
thought you
talking
were
to
talking about
Kowalczyk
Kruger.
No, I was talking to Kowalczyk about
I'm
that.
talking about Kowalczyk.
About how like the
tonight.
half tempi are so important.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that it's such a good card. Like I when I saw people playing playsets, I was like, yeah, I would play 4. And I'm looking at the deck lists now, and I'm like, oh wow, this is. I wish I had more free time to play Magic. I wish there was more Sunday stuff going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's why I'm so excited for the next team event. Because shout out to Norm, team event on Sunday every time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like it's like the only event I care about. First of all,
True.
I can actually go on Sundays, and they're spread out far enough that I'm like not trolling winter or anything. So that's kind of
Yeah.
nice. Eventually, I'll hire an employee. I lied again.
Yeah, and then lastly, if you're playing the mirror, Kaito, whoever lands more Kaitos and more Curiosities wins. It's not that hard.
Okay, so we've been going on for like about an hour and a half. I'm gonna keep the next part short only because one, I personally don't think there's that much to talk about. Even though there's like a lot to talk about, I think there's not a lot to talk about at the same time because Modern is, I think it's too early to tell. Even though we're starting to see it kind of like form, you know.
Yeah.
It's I would be even remiss to say we're like first trimester Modern before the RC. Like I think we're still gonna see a lot more development. It's only been like what 2 weeks since BNR.
I think 2 weeks.
Yeah, and the first week people were going crazy. People were freaking out. Everybody was exclaiming that Max Global was going to get banned again. I was like, I guess, man, you must be seeing something I'm not. Somebody in George's Discord posted the Modern Metagame. There's a Twitter called @ModernMetagame, and a bunch of other people that post just free data online, which is awesome. You guys should give them a follow if you're not. Honestly, you should follow them for yourself if you play the formats that they're sharing data for. I saw the photo in the Discord. I wasn't really that high on it because it was really low sample size data, and I kind of try to ignore that if possible. I mean, I'll look at it for what it is and then kind of ignore it when it's like this early in the format.
I'm following @ModernMetagame right now.
I already did.
On ours?
On ours, yes.
What the?
I didn't want to be a liar. I didn't want to be a liar. But Jared tagged me and posted it in our Discord. I was like, hey, just this, you know. And I was like, I think it's nothing, Burger, but also thanks for sharing because I was just looking at the same thing in the other Discord. After that, Gabe said something, and I was like, fuck Gabe, I'm going to talk about this data now. I don't know why. I was just kind of feeling a little Gemini. And so I was like, you know what? I am going to talk about it. But I kind of went down a rabbit hole. I asked the person in George's Discord where they got the screenshot. I fucking hate when people just post a photo. Cool. Context. Who made this? Where did it come from? What's the data from? Just photo.
Whoever posted it's like, any askers?
Literally. And then they asked her, and they were like, here's the link to the Twitter. And then the Twitter page, Modern Metagame, doesn't say who gives you the data, but they do say in the tweet, this is all like the challenges and the 5-0s that are posted. So this sample size data is since the BNR, and it's like it's like 3,000 plus matches, but not that many players, like 1,200 players in 3,000 matches for all the Moto play. So like I said, take it with a grain of salt. Really low sample size, a lot of this data. Even though there's a lot of terrific players on Moto, I just don't think that it's like the true data set. But it's pretty interesting to look at.
Well, you also have to keep in mind too that the GP is about to happen. We just got all this work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's usually what really comes out of the woodwork is when we have a big Modern tournament that's coming.
Exactly.
And so because I don't think that there are enough of our normal grinders that are actually cooking for events like this.
I agree. That's why like I said, first trimester, new format.
New format.
We're gonna see a lot more development. I want to see some cool brews. I personally think that there's like one or two archetypes that are still either undiscovered or unadapted yet. Like for example, creativity. Creativity is getting played a lot, but it's not doing well personally, or not personally, but doing well statistically. And I think that's because they haven't really adapted the deck yet. It's probably that they're like, well, let's try what it was doing before and slap some Faithless Winnings. Or let's do this, but not really. You gotta look at the format, the totality, you know? And the thing is, like, what's that?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I saw Spike say something about that along the lines of like, people were playing in the creativity deck. They're like throwing in Fable the Mirror Breaker, and he's like, stop playing this card. And I was like, oh yeah.
I like Fable for the deck, but if you already have Faithless Looting, you have room to explore. I really like 4 persist, 4 Faithless Looting, build a shell around that. I loved creativity before One Ring because it was like mainboarding 4 spell pierces in the context of that modern format. That was insane, right? And it felt oppressive almost. Like creativity felt really, really good. I convinced a lot of non-modern players to play because of decks like creativity that were like kind of like not that hard, but also like fun enough and strong enough to like convince somebody to like try it out. I like, dude, this you're literally just flipping cards until you hit your guy. That's it. All right, now play counter spells. Go. Teferi's awesome. Ren and 6 is awesome. I love to see Ren and 6 get played. And so I think that there's room for creativity to be built stronger, built better towards the format. And then when something like that happens, like if creativity, let's say they shake it up, they build like a 15 different cards in the deck, and then they really come back with a good 50-51% win rate creativity deck. That's going to steal meta share from other decks, so the rest of the decks have to adapt. And then that might bring up another deck because of that, and then all of a sudden the metas meta shares are getting spread out.
Yeah.
That's what I mean about like the format hasn't really developed. We don't know if Yawgmoth's going to be the best Green Suns deck. We don't know if Amulet's going to be the best Green Suns deck because Amulet's getting a lot of power from the deck. If you look at the Amulet win rates, they're really high, but like I said, this is low player sample size. So when you start adding in all the bad Amulet players, Amulet's win rate might tank, you know? At the same time, if you only have the win rates of the really terrific Amulet players, it's going to look like a deck that should be banned. It's going to be like a 60 plus win rate deck. So like, I mean, Amulet's the type of deck that if you only have like the top 5 guys that are playing that deck on it, it's going to look ridiculous, right? But when you start adding like the rest of the field, it looks a little bit more realistic to what the deck, looks like.
I was just looking at it just because I wanted to see, based off of your like, well, how much like data is this? So, right, there are 388 matches of Amulet Titan on here.
Okay.
76 players. That's 5 games, 5 matches per player.
Yeah.
That's like how much sample size we're talking.
Yeah. It's very low. That's why I was like,
very
this
low.
is not nothing, but not something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited for the format. I think the format's really fun. I think there's unexplored territory, which is good. I don't think anything's necessarily broken. Obviously, we have front runners. Boros Energy's still doing its thing, but like, who didn't expect an aggro deck to not do its thing? New format aggro decks usually do well,
right.
Which is also why Mox Opal's having a lot of success. Affinity, I think, is starting to finally come down in win rate to like 49-50%. But when it first came out on the scene, day 2, day 3, people were like, you gotta ban the Mox Opal. Like, it's insane. And for what it's worth, Mox Opal might be problematic with Ursa Saga, potentially. There could be like an argument there in a couple months. But now, there's no argument for anything, in my opinion. I don't think anything people say with any level of certainty, besides saying, I don't know, is like factual. A lot of people are like, I think this. And I'm like, I think you can reasonably say, I predict this. But I don't think you can reasonably say this is true. As an example, like right now, Ruby Storm has like a really low presence of the meta, but it has an insanely high win rate. Well, like Ruby Storm kind of just like rewards you for your opponent not interacting. So if people are testing stuff out right now, and you're just Ruby Storming, I feel like, yeah, your deck's gonna look crazy. Like you're just kind of like, what are you doing over there? I don't care. So like, also, Ruby Storm gained a card. Faithless Looting is definitely a card you can play in Storm. Obviously, it's not like a Pyromancer Ascension Storm like back in the day where it was like 4 Faithless Lootings, but a couple Faithless Lootings, really good draw power. In a mono red deck that really needed to draw cards more than it needed to blatantly cantrip. I mean, if they wanted to cantrip so bad, they would play blue. They don't care about that. So Faithless Looting is a good addition to the deck, and it makes the deck a little bit more versatile. I think it's a lot of power for the deck, but at the same time, I don't think Ruby Storm's unbeatable. It just has like aggro deck in new format power, and also high reward for opponent not interacting. And people are playing a lot more interaction for what they're expecting, like graveyard cards for Faithless Looting, artifacts from Mox Opal. You might forget your anti-storm cards. Although Consigned to Memory is doing a really good job of holding it all together, which I'm happy with, because the Boros decks don't get it. And I don't know. I just think Modern's really cool right now.
Do you want to like talk a little bit about like what some of the decks are that are front runners?
Yeah, I wish that this thing printed with color, because people had like an actual tier 1. But, and for what it's worth, when Frank posted the show notes, you guys will get the spoilers if you want to read them. I only posted one photo of the data set. All the data sets though that I found interesting, including one that I printed here, they're in the Discord, free access. I shouted out all the people that they belong to, because it's really cool. A lot of these players putting in really, really cool work on their spreadsheets. And as a person who fucking sucks at using spreadsheets, I really appreciate people that can like put it together and go, here's the graphs, here's the data, you can read it. And let's be honest, honestly, extrapolating data from graphs and spreadsheets is a lot of work. It is very tedious.
That sign won't stop me because I can't read.
True. So obviously right out the gate, Energy is coming in hot. It is cool to see that people are still playing the Mardu version. I mean, Bowmasters is... Excuse me, I am struggling.
Brokey.
Bowmasters is still a good card. So yes, there's reasons to play black. It's not the only reason, but we were seeing Mardu Energy before the bans. I don't see why we wouldn't see it after. Boros Energy as well. I really like where we're at with Dimir Oculus. I think I had a note about it. Oh, sorry guys, I almost got there. So Dimir Oculus I'm really into, because one, it's like Murktide really sucks in Izzet. Really just sucks in Izzet. Izzet kind of just like bad right now. Like it's like Twin is kind of like holding it together. That's it. And it's low win rate Twin. I think it's like 48-49% win rate Twin. So tier 2, fine. But Murktide not being played would make me really sad. I'm like, damn, already Modern Horizons 2 not good? Because don't look at Hammer's win rate. Hammer is fucking dog shit.
We're getting demonetized for this episode.
We are not monetized. Murktide getting to slot into the Dimir deck to me is really cool. Also, they kind of do more with the graveyard than the red deck did, ironically enough.
I love Frog. I just want to play Frog.
Frog is awesome.
Even though I don't feel like I'm good enough to play Frog.
Oculus is awesome. I think they were even playing like Preacher of the Schism in some of the lists, bro. Like, Dimir that's so
cope.
Cool.
That's cope.
It's not. It's literally in some of the deck
Preacher is cope.
Play Modern. You might like it. Actually, you were asking me earlier, like, what Modern deck would I like? It's your standard deck. Your standard deck is a Modern deck.
I don't want to buy these Oculuses, please.
Yeah, it's the only thing you need. You just play the rest of your standard deck. Slot them out as you're building the deck. But it's really cool. It's almost like the new Rakdos from like last year, where like Scam was like the best deck, like the #1 mid-range deck, and just doing its job. Now it's Dimir, and I think Dimir is the most represented if you split up the energy decks into 2 archetypes, which I think is a fair thing to do, especially because this data set shows like energy as like the most played. But if you look at the totality of the last month, I think Dimir is the most played by far. It also makes me kind of glad that Grief is banned now, looking at this Dimir deck, because even though when they banned Grief with Nadu, I was like, that's dumb. Now Grief with Dimir, I think, would be kind of annoying. It would almost be like Dimir Scam, and I think that would be really, really atrocious. As much as I wish the Chorus players could still play their Griefs. The other thing that I find interesting is
players could play their Griefs.
Yeah. Ruby Storm, even though I think it's like a little overperforming right now, I think part of the reason why is people kind of slept on it. I don't know what was happening like the first week of unbans. Well, I mean, we do know what was happening. Nobody was playing Storm because everyone wanted to play with their new cookies. But Jared and I were like on Discord talking, and we're like, why is nobody playing Storm or respecting it? And like people were saying, not everybody, but some people were online yapping like, oh, Storm sucks now. And Jared and I were like, sucks. Like, yeah, no, seriously, like I'm like, sucks is a strong word. Like, oh, I don't want to play Storm right now. Oh, I think Storm's boring. Are takes.
Fine.
Storm sucks?
Bad takes.
That's a bad take. And so Jared and I were like in the Discord call, like, what are they talking about? Like, if anything, it's not playing Faithless Looting yet. But Storm kind of like likes these kind of formats where like everybody's exploring territory when they're like I already mentioned, they want you to be exploring territory. Oh, you're trying something out? Thanks for the ticks. And so like I'm glad to see that it's like really like kind of hot right now, but at the same time I do expect that to like pull back a bit. Energy stayed relevant, who would have thought? Belcher stayed relevant, also who would have thought? Like the deck didn't really change, it didn't lose anything, it didn't gain any weaknesses. I think thinking Belcher or Energy were gonna go away, even with the Amtraptor band, was cope. Belcher looks really fun, just don't try to consign the activation. Shout outs for anybody that gets the joke. I do think that people are disrespecting creativity, which I already talked about. I'm just going through my notes here to make sure I covered everything. I want to see some adaptation though. I think that the current creativity lists are either getting really unlucky or they need to like try something else, because we had a bunch of different creativity builds before the One Ring, and people built a deck like 3-4 different ways. Some decks wouldn't even play Persist. I think it's kind of more mandatory now with Faithless Looting, but it's like you said, like the whole, people are still forcing 4 Fables in the deck. Maybe it's time to explore no Fables, you know, like what Spike was saying, and you know, he might be right. Spike was also the person that said that Amtraptor was the strongest card in Modern Horizons when the set got spoiled, and people called him crazy. And say what you want about Spike, you know,
dude plays a ton of Modern.
He plays a ton of Modern, and even though he's always playing Brews, that's like what I do, you know, I'm always playing Brews, but when it comes down to like doing our homework, I'm gonna do my homework. So yeah, I think of all the people to respect their opinion on Modern, Spike is one of them, and the fact that he called it with Amtraptor, completely called it, because it got banned. People should probably respect his take on creativity. I agree with him. They need to adapt. I love seeing, also, this will make you happy, Yawgmoth is tier 1 again. Obviously Green Suns is a great card. A lot of the cards in the deck are Green Suns cards. It's noticeably though, you can't like tutor for Yawgmoth with it. So like that's one thing. But
it was me having a note. So the first thing I did when I have been seeing 5-0s on Modern, because I've been like looking at like, okay, what deck do I want to like build so I can just have, and like I kind of want to, like you with Tron, where you've had a deck.
Yeah.
I've never stuck to a deck in Modern.
Sure.
I went from Yawgmoth to Tron from Living End to Tron, then played then I played Dimir Frogtide, then I played Jeskai, the Control. Like I've just been all over the place and like haven't like stuck with an archetype in Modern. And I saw like 4-color Green Sun Zenith like Omnath decks, and I was like, maybe that's what I should be doing.
Yeah. See, I was saying, like, all your decks are Modern decks right now. That's the Niv deck.
Right.
And
I was like, okay.
Or I guess it's not even Niv anymore. Is it Niv still in Pioneer? I thought they cut the Niv.
No, they're still playing Niv. It's
because you can bring Light into it.
Yes. It's the Enigmatic is just
right, the Enigmatics.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in Modern we call it Omnath, but Niv, not bad in Modern. Dimir, not bad in Modern. Also love seeing all these new cards getting added to the format. It's really cool. It's like what Julian was saying about Vintage and Legacy. He's like, 4x Archon, 4x Anointed Peacekeeper. What's going on over here in these high power level formats? Well, you know, if you Black Lotus a Peacekeeper, you can blow your opponent's dick off. I think Green Sun Zenith is a cool addition to the format. I love seeing it.
Like 4 of them were $200. I was like,
really? Wow. Well, I'm doing really well then.
I'm gonna figure that out right now.
Amulet Titan is like really high win rate right now in this like low sample data. I want to see what it looks like with like a broader tournament. Who knows? Maybe Amulet or Titan or Green Suns were too good. But I mean, I've wanted to ban Prime Time at one point, like back in the day when it was like really really good. But for what it is now, I think it's too early to tell. Like I was saying. And who knows, maybe these aren't even like the best Green Suns decks. Maybe there might be like another Green Suns deck that comes up, like a Samwise something or other.
$47 per Green Suns unit.
Reprint that. Modern Horizons 4?
Please.
I hope there's not a Modern Horizons 4 if I'm being honest. I hope they take a break from Modern Horizons.
Take a break.
Like I want to see
Take a breather.
Either like because they're gonna do less supplementary sets thanks to Universes Beyond. Arigato Universes Beyond. You're welcome. If they're going to do a supplementary set, please make it a master set and just reprint some of these super expensive cards like Jeweled Lotus and Dockside Extortionist and Mana Crypt.
No, Abandoned Commander, no one cares.
Oh, I was going to say those would be good reprints, but then I forgot.
Jeweled Lotus, banned. Banned.
But anyways,
CDH.
Green Suns could be a cool reprint at least. I love when there's a good green card to print because whenever a master set comes out, they're like, what do we print for the green mythic? Oh, Tarmogoyfs are $5 now. Guess nothing. Now it's like, what, Morrow, Volborn Tyrant? Like, what do you, I guess you could, doubling season, I guess.
I'm
Like,
going to reprint Beseiju, call it green.
hey, you know what? Beseiju could use a reprint. God damn, if they don't give us, like, that cycle in the next, like, high-power master set, like, please. Like, there are not enough Kamigawa packs running around. I want people to open Kamigawa packs in the store whenever I have them, just because those lands they're just so good. And I know.
I keep one box up there.
Not a financial podcast, but like.
Not
dude,
a financial podcast. No
Kamigawa lands, invest. Like, you gotta buy them. They're gonna get so expensive.
Man, this is going to be another short for me. Thank you.
You're welcome, Frank. Anyways, I want to talk more about Modern, but I think I will die if I do.
Yeah, die.
I'm gonna go take a cough pill. I promise you guys I'll see a doctor. I couldn't this week because of Christmas. But like I said, we'll have more to talk about Modern soon anyway.
Give it to the Patreon so Stan can see a doctor.
Yeah, you gotta give. Can't afford my health
gotta
insurance.
give.
My premiums. I was gonna make a joke. I'm not gonna make a joke.
Too hard, too late.
Let's not make a joke.
2:20 in the morning.
Yeah, 2:20 in the morning. We're gonna call it here. If you wanna hear, we had a request about making an episode covering a topic about how to identify if your opponent is good and how much you should respect them. I like the concept, and I think there's a lot to talk about there. I think there's a lot of nuance. I had that request as an episode type. If we come up with a weekend where there's not a lot going on in any of the formats, unlike right now where there's a lot coming up, I think we'll take that endeavor. If you guys have thoughts on that, let us know in the comments. If you guys want us to explore something though, also let us know. We can explore some other ideas. Otherwise, I think that's everything. Frank is seeing ghosts out the window and I'm getting very scared. So we're gonna call it here. Frank is gonna do the shout outs for me and I'm gonna finger point, and whenever you point, you can sit down, and once I point at everybody, we can leave.
So, shout outs as always, first to Boarside Gaming for allowing us to do the podcast in the store. Big news for them coming in the future, so please stay tuned. And while you can, buy that product. Get that Aether Drift. Get these singles. We'll ship them around for you. Also, shout out to Nancy Steroids for doing our intro and outro music. Please go ahead and check him out on Spotify. He's always releasing new music, and it's the stuff that happens when I stream. Probably will be tomorrow if I wake up in time before my New Year's plans, which you guys won't know about because this will be released way after New Year's. Shout out.
You think so?
This isn't getting released tomorrow.
I mean, like Thursday.
Yeah, but New Year's is over. New Year's is tomorrow.
Oh,
Today
New Year's is Wednesday.
It's two.
When you said not by New Year's, I thought you meant Sunday.
No.
I'm dying here, guys.
He's dying.
The garbage guy is outside.
Are you sure I'm the one seeing ghosts? I am. Shout out to Sal, MCG Chicago.
There's a phantom interference.
All of the... No, that card's bad now.
There's a spell stuck.
The fairies. shout out to MTG Chicago for seeing a lot of
Please check out MTG Chicago.
the videos. He's almost at 4K subscribers.
Please subscribe if you
please
haven't.
get him up
Check
to
out our
4K.
gameplay in the videos.
All
Also, there was
the
a really
gameplay.
spicy drama. Round 4, Mono White versus something. Spicy drama. Peep the comments. I was flaming
Super
people.
spicy drama.
Super fun. Check out his channel, man. He does good
Yeah,
work.
I also
and
had-
Sal does our videos right now. He's gonna fix the part where the camera died, and he's gonna merge the audio somehow.
Yeah, I also had a really awesome top 8 match against Will Kowalczyk on Mono Red where I had to calculate combat math. I'm not kidding. Like 6 times because the line that I was taking was exactly what I needed to win the game. Otherwise, I was losing. And it was super, super close in top 8. It was awesome. Go check it out. Also, he does, right, he supplies with these cameras. He is doing our thumbnails and doing some of our editing now. He's just the best. We can't thank him enough. Please go to his channel.
I talk to him like I talk to my cats, and I scratch his belly.
Hey, you little buddy. It's better than how I talk to my cats. I'm like, what's up?
Get
bitch?"
off the computer!
I'm like, what's up, bitch? You being a baby bitch?
Oh, I call my Bella a fat piece of shit.
I didn't know you used to be a huge piece of shit. Shoot, am I missing a shout out? Was there any more?
I didn't hear him, I'll be honest. Shout out to the patrons as always for supporting the show.
Yes, that was the
Shout
last
outs
one.
to the viewers that are here with us for the ride.
The viewers, the people
Really
on our
appreciate you
Discord.
guys.
Thank you so much for all that you've done for us as the podcast in 2024. And we're really excited for Magic and for what's going to come to the podcast in 2025. So stay tuned where we'll be recapping
Will I
what
play Magic this
happens. Will I do well in Atlanta? Will I use that card money to pay off my
yeah.
debt? We'll find out.
Franklin and Atlanta, I forgot.
This
Next
week.
time on Dragon Ball Z.
Next time.
Catch you guys next time.
Have a
Peace.
good one.